Morning, everybody, or at least it's morning here. It could be midnight where you are. Anyway, I am going to try doing a screen capture kind of movie, and this is the first time I've ever tried this out, so hopefully it will go smoothly. I'm just going to play the same PowerPoint that I had posted earlier before, but since not everyone has access to PowerPoint, I decided to do this as a movie so people will be able to access it without any trouble at all and not anything special. What I'd like to talk with you about is, there we go, is if the class is going to work well as a whole, we need to kind of land on a common definition of literature, what it is and what it isn't. And so this presentation kind of will take us through a lot of different circuitous routes, and we'll say something and then contradict it and end up in perhaps a little bit of a maze, but we will eventually make our way towards, I hope, a better understanding of literature. Whoops, this thing is moving on itself. But actually, a good place to start is with the basic dictionary definition of literature. And so here is the one from Merriam-Webster, and you'll find that most dictionaries say much the same thing. Literature is defined as written works, such as poems, plays, and novels, that are considered to be very good and to have lasting importance. And of course, the problem with a definition such as this is, well, what is very good? Who decides that? And what is going to be of lasting importance? Who decides that? So such a definition is, about as helpful as a screen door on a submarine. This thing is moving along at a pace that I can't go at. All right, well, we can probably do better. And usually in a face-to-face course, what I'll do is get students to list characteristics of literature on the board. I'll start off with, we think literature is deep and meaningful and not trivial and profound in some way. And other students will say, yes, it has some sort of important theme. Others will say it's really beautifully written. Others will say, yeah, it's like really boring and written by a lot of old white men and I can't get into it, but teachers make us read it anyway. And so we end up with all kinds of different ideas and impressions of what literature is on the board. And naturally, none of that really helps. So we can probably do better than even that. One way to talk about literature is to talk about what it isn't. All right, literature is compared to commercial fiction. There's definitely a distinction. Commercial fiction is the stuff, mass market paperbacks. It's usually genre fiction, like sports stories or thrillers or mysteries or romance novels or things such as that. And it will always have these characteristics. One, it has to have a sympathetic hero or a heroine with whom the reader identifies or aspires to be like, sports fiction, action fiction, romance novel, etc. All right, so you always got to like your hero. Must have an exciting and suspenseful plot. We call these books very plotty, P-L-O-T-T-Y, plotty. It's a page turner. You get to the end of the chapter and you have to keep going to find out what's going to happen. And so the plot or the storyline has lots of twists and turns, and you just can't put the book down. It's meant to sell. All right. They always will have a happy ending. Always. Yeah, readers don't like it if things, end sadly. They want to, walk away feeling like they've just escaped from the world and lived through this exciting adventure. And finally, commercial fiction will always have a moral or a theme, which confirms the truth of the reader's already held worldview. So the commercial fiction isn't meant to shake up your world. You're meant to walk away from it feeling like what you believed about the world has been confirmed. Love will always win. In the end, the bad guy is going to be taken down and the good guy is going to win. The team you've been rooting for, yes, they win after many ups and downs and conquering obstacles and blah, 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 blah. The problem, of course, is that some literary works do much the same thing. I'm asking you right now to read The Color Purple, and it does actually meet the first three characteristics. We are meant to identify or at least sympathize very much with our heroine, Celie. We root for her throughout. This book is written as a series of letters and covers quite a bit of time too, and so there are continual plot changes, and so we stay interested. It's a plotty book. It ends up having a happy ending at the end of it all, where well, I don't want to give away the ending, but the world is right at the end of that book. The only thing that's different from commercial fiction, and the book did sell very well, I will also add, is that it may have smashed up what some people already thought about the world. They may have been left challenging their beliefs about, sexual stereotypes, race relations, things such as that. And so the theme doesn't, confirm what you may have already thought about the world. All right, we're moving on. Let's actually look at some literature. That may help. All right, here's one of the world's greatest Imagist poems. It's called The Red Wheelbarrow, and it is by William Carlos Williams. And I show this to students every time, and it ends up being pretty amusing. All right, here's the poem. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. And, inevitably students go, what? My 3-year-old brother could have written that. I don't get it. Why is that literature? Well, it is considered to be literature. It's anthologized to death, this poem. But you got to know what the Imagists were trying to do. The Imagist poets were basically, their movement was they believed that a good poem could capture an important idea or message in a single image. And so we're given an image here that's supposed to impart something to us. So the poem begins, so much depends upon. Well, what depends upon what? What? So then you look at the image, a red wheelbarrow. Well, you think about what a wheelbarrow does, and notice that wheel and barrow are split. So we get wheel. That's an important tool invented by humans. And a red wheelbarrow, or the wheelbarrow, is also a tool. It's a farm implement for one thing, or a gardening tool. You put a load in it and you push the wheelbarrow around to move it. I've been hauling a lot of dirt myself over in the garden, and so a wheelbarrow is a necessary tool. All right, the next part of the image is the wheelbarrow's glazed with rainwater. Okay, and you think about rain, you think about water. These are a natural element that is also necessary for farming and for humans, really, to even survive. We all need water. A farm, a garden, definitely needs water if it's going to thrive and grow. Okay, and then finally we have beside the white chickens. Well, chickens are animals, and they're also good on a farm because they can be used for meat or for eggs, and so we get nourishment from the chickens. And they also are pretty good at cleaning up little mites and stuff in your garden. All right, so we're left with this red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the chickens. So we have farm implements created by human beings. Then we have a natural element like rain. And then we have chickens, which is the animal kingdom. So all these elements together give you a pretty good picture of a farm and the importance of a farm and how a farm works. Then you look at the color scheme. The wheelbarrow is red. The chickens are white. And the color we usually associate with rain or water is blue, right? So we get red, white, and blue. And so that's a symbol for America. So we could say the poem simply says, so much depends upon the American farmer. And that's true, especially since the American farmer is now a dying breed. We've got corporate farms and so on. And I believe, if memory serves, William Carlos Williams was a doctor in a farming community. So most of the people he tended to were farmers or farm families. And so he was just expressing his appreciation for, you know, the importance of what these salt of the earth people do. Um, anyway, students are going to say, well, how the heck was I supposed to know what the Imagist movement was doing? And how the heck am I supposed to get all of that out of this little poem? And this is frustrating, Joyce. And my answer to that is, well, that's why you're taking 110. All right, to learn how to read such things. Let's go at this again from another angle. Here's one version of an eagle. All right, I think we can look at this. We can see that it is from an encyclopedia. It tells us the eagle is one of many large, heavy-beaked, big-footed birds of prey belonging to the family. I'm not even going to try to say that. Whatever. In general, an eagle is any bird of prey more powerful than a buteo? Boy, an eagle may resemble a vulture in build and flight characteristics, but blah, 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 blah. You get the basic idea. Well, here is another eagle in contrast. This is a poem called The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. We're going to be reading some of his works later on this semester. All right, eagle. He clasps the crag with crooked hands. Close to the sun in lonely lands, ringed with the azure world he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt he falls. Wow, all right. Comparing the two, the encyclopedia version and Tennyson's version of eagle, there's a clear difference. And I think everybody would know that this particular eagle by Tennyson would be the literature, and the encyclopedia definition not so much. All right, but let's look at what makes this poem, briefly anyway, what makes this poem a little bit remarkable. We've got some figurative language here. We've got alliteration, clasps, crag, crooked, close. We've certainly got a rhyme scheme, hands, lands, stands, crawls, walls, falls. Personification. Here we have an eagle described as having hands, and of course, hands. Eagles have claws. They don't really have hands, but it personifies or makes the eagle human-like. Some hyperbole or exaggeration. It says the eagle's close to the sun. We know that's not literally true. He'd be a pile of ashes. But anyway, the idea is to make us imagine this eagle way up in the sky on the end of a crag, with the sun blazing behind him. So he's just up there, way up there. Then we've got a metaphor. The sea is wrinkled. The sea, oops, hey, slow down. The sea's wrinkled, but it isn't actually wrinkled. It looks like, here we go, in real life. But if you've ever stood way up and looked down at the ocean from, a cliff or something, yeah, that's exactly what the sea looks like. It looks like the wrinkles on a blanket or something like that. Anyway, then suddenly the eagle is going to spot his prey and whoosh down like a thunderbolt. That's a simile. He goes down and to grasp his prey. All right, so that's really, a short little interpretation of that poem. But what's the difference between it and the encyclopedia definition? Well, the encyclopedia entry on eagle doesn't really do anything, and it's not intended to do anything but inform. It just gives us facts about eagles and a lot of unpronounceable words. It feels sterile, okay? You don't get a feeling from it. The poem, The Eagle, definitely gives you a feeling, right? A feeling of awe, perhaps, or a new appreciation for the splendor of this bird. it does two things. It's remarkable in its form and style, and as I briefly showed you, it has a lot of elements of figurative language in it. And yes, it does. It gives you that feeling. Let's hang on to that word feeling and look at what some actual famous authors have had to say. Well, there's what he said. This is Ernest Hemingway, really mastered the art of dialogue. He wrote, "All good books are alike in that they're truer than if they had really happened." And after you're finished reading one, you will feel all that happened to you. And afterwards, it all belongs to you. The good and the bad, the ecstasy, the remorse and sorrow, the people and the places, and how the weather was. If you can get so that you can give that to people, you're a writer. And or also what she said. Emily Dickinson, who's a poet, said, "If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold no fire could warm me, I know that is poetry. If I feel physically as though the top of my head were taken off, I know that's poetry. These are the only way I know it. Is there any other way?" So they're talking about feelings. Emily Dickinson has a feeling. Hemingway wants to give you a feeling. And then here's David Peck, who is actually a high school teacher in Oregon. He says, "Literature allows us to become right-handed when we're lefties, married when we're single, gay when we're straight, a sister instead of a brother, an immigrant instead of a native, a teacher instead of a student, and it allows us to learn how it feels," there's that word again, to be that other person. It gives us an experience we may not normally have. So all of this brings us to our working definition of literature for English 110. Literature's intention is not commercial. It's not to inform or persuade or make money. Its intention is to broaden or deepen our experience. Broaden our experience means help us experience things outside our own personal experience. Deepen means to help us feel more poignantly what we perhaps already have felt. So it shines a new light on things or totally puts us in a place we've never been before. And the other element of literature is that its expression is remarkable in some way. A good work. Its form or style or language is beyond the merely average. We're drawn into the text by the writer's art. So literature is artistic. It's very well done, well written. It makes us marvel at the writer's craft, but it also makes us feel something. We end up walking away from it feeling like we have been in a place we've never been before, or the writer penned down something about experiences we know in a really, really excellent way. Well, that's sort of getting at an idea of what literature is. We'll be reading tons of it this semester, and so that will probably sharpen your view a little bit more. But all right, let me get this downloaded and posted so those who don't have PowerPoint can see it, and I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for listening.